so much. Now, after the break, no more expensive tell-all interviews, apparently, with the latest on Prince Harry and Meghan's decision to stop speaking out about the royal family. Also, with 1 in 4 women experiencing hair loss, Dr. Amir is here with helps how to reduce it, and he'll be answering some of your questions live. Ahead of his new sitcom about his life, Alan Carr exclusively reveals which superstar could make an appearance. All that, plus it's the news that Sex in the City fans thought would never happen. Gosh, that music itself, it makes me feel good. We're live in LA as Kim Cattrall joins the cast of the spin-off And Just Like That. Overnight, Sarah Ferguson's launched her first ever podcast. Find out what she had to say about the late Queen in just a minute. Good morning to you. Also coming up on the show, how to keep your children safe on social media. We've expert advice for parents and the simple tips to help your teens navigate the online world. With 1 in 4 women experiencing hair loss, Dr. Amir shares his simple tips to prevent it. And
some of them were so heartwarming, some of them were just downright offensive. They've got, hello, I'm Alan. But then...
Starring in a new comedy based on his own life, don't miss our exclusive chat with Alan Carr at 9:30. Well, as that, we've got Ross to pack in as well. Loads coming out of LA this morning. What's going on?
Morning, Ranvir. Sam and Carrie getting back together just like that. Sex in the City, more in the clever way in which they're going to do that. Plus, there's another Sam with Madonna. What the heck is that all about? It's all coming up. I'll see you later.
Both of those stories have tickled me pink this morning. I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Ross. I cannot wait to hear all about it. Now, overnight, Sarah Ferguson's new podcast has been released. She's been on a few, but this is her first own podcast that she's launching herself. Now, she's joined other members of the royal family. We know the Duchess of Sussex has got one, Mike Tyndall has got one, a very popular one. But the Mail on Sunday's assistant editor, Kate Mancy, is here, who has listened to it and quite liked it. We've also got royal correspondent Jenny Bond. What did you think of it, Jenny? In a sentence.
I thought it was a load of old fluff, actually.
There you go, that's Jenny's load of old fluff. This is going to be spicy this morning. I love it. Right, so both of you, it's a 40-minute podcast, right? Kate, so it's something to... Is it Spilling the Tea? Is that what it's called? Tea for Two or something?
Yeah, this is Fergie's first podcast.
Yes.
Or Fergs, as we now know she likes to be called, apparently, in the podcast. We learn this. We learn a lot about her in this first episode. And she calls it Spilling the Tea. Or she says she will be spilling the tea. It's called Tea Talks. And she's hosting it with her long-time friend, Sarah Thompson, who's an entrepreneur and businesswoman. She founded this first news service for children. And having had afternoon tea with Sarah myself, I can tell you that this is exactly what it's like. She's like a pinball machine. She kind of ricochets from subject to subject. And 1 minute, she's telling us about Peter Pan's shadow. On another minute, she's telling us about a trip she had to Croatia the other week. And then we don't get further than the security line before she's changed the subject again. But it's gloriously authentic. It's actually quite charming. We learn there's a brilliant anecdote where she says she's looking at a picture of Geri Halliwell, the Spice Girl, in a magazine and thinking, gosh, she looks wonderful. And rather than being jealous, she decides to phone up Geri's office and demand to know her secret. Promptly gets a number for her yoga instructor and hires her herself. I think that's quite brilliant. She also opens up about her not-so-glamorous first jobs and moving into Buckingham Palace.
Should we take a listen?
From 4 till 9, I did lavatories and mirrors. I cleaned very good lavatories and mirrors, by the way, just to let you know. When I got married to a prince and lived in Buckingham Palace, the Queen said, "Do you like your room?" And I said, "Oh, my goodness, I love my room, and there's loads of mirrors and loads of lavatories."
To clean.
And
Jenny, what's not to love? She's just one of us. She cleaned toilets. She was impressed with Buckingham Palace. What did you make of it? Is this her comeback?
Well, she's always trying new things, and credit to her, you know, she needs credit actually because she's always on the verge of bankruptcy, she tells us. So, I mean, everyone else is doing a podcast. Why shouldn't she? I do not see any problem with that. What I do see is that it was a lot of waffle. We didn't learn very much about her, or anything really that hasn't been in her 2 autobiographies already, which were quite revealing. And basically, I think this format can work, just 2 women talking. It does work and has been proven to work with a very successful, fortunately, podcast, Jane Garvey and Fee Glover. But you see, they had an acerbic wit and a topicality and an observational humour, which is totally lacking in this. It's very inward looking. It was like a mutual love-in, actually. They kept telling each other how much they love one another and listing their
Kate's grinning over here. She knows you're telling the truth. But listen, Jenny, can I just ask, because it's interesting to think, who was Sarah Ferguson, aged 18? Because she only came into our consciousness when she got married into the royal family. So what was her heritage? Who was she then?
Well, she was quite a posh girl, came from, a good background, private school and all that. And she became a chalet girl, which is when she learnt to, although she didn't like the term chalet girl, but essentially that's what she was doing out in Switzerland, cleaning loos and looking after chalets. She was a bit of a party girl, really, I think, looking for a career when she ran into a chap called Andrew.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Now, can we talk about the front pages this morning as well, moving on from the podcast? Prince Harry is back and it appears to be making a bit of a declaration of silence.
Well, yeah, we're told that Harry is going to put a sock in it. And these are reports that saying that he's going to stop the royal bashing kind of fly-on-the-wall Netflix programmes and the memoirs. I mean, obviously, when he brought out Spare earlier this year in January, this was the autobiography that the royals were kind of wincing about in the palace. We learned that there were hundreds of other pages left that he could publish. There was speculation that Meghan might do a book as well. But now there are reports saying that's it. They've run out of material, apparently. Perhaps because people have stopped talking to them in the palace, I don't know. But it might be good news for members of the royal family who've probably had quite enough of it.
Yeah, I should imagine so. And Jenny, is there any news on Harry's visa? Just explain a bit of this story as well for those who aren't up to date.
Yeah, though obviously on whether they're going to reveal any more about their lives. I mean, last week there was a story that, yes, they're planning a Netflix documentary, another one. So who knows? The fact is we don't really know. But what we do know is there is going to be a court hearing in a few days' time in Washington. A right-wing conservative think tank called the Heritage Foundation want to know whether Harry declared that he'd taken drugs when he applied for a visa to live in the United States. Probably not many people would actually tick that little box saying, yes, yes. But of course, in his book, he has revealed that he has indeed taken cocaine, marijuana, magic mushrooms. And now this foundation want to get to the bottom of that. So they're stirring the pot a bit. Oh, the pot. Oh, dear. Sorry, that's a bit of fun.
Well, no, it's interesting, though, isn't it? Because you remember with Nigella Lawson, there was an issue, wasn't there, after certain things were revealed, and then she had to struggle with her visa. So I suppose it's a legitimate question in many ways. Now, William, meanwhile, here, has opened up about a pet peeve, Kate.
Well, we learn there are reports that William loved it when Kate is showered with attention and public adoration, but can be quite miffed or peeved when he's cropped out of photographs. I remember being on the Caribbean tour with the pair of them when they were still Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, and some of the A's sort of wondering why it was only Kate on the front pages. They were saying to me, it looks like she's come on this trip on her own. But, sorry, Wills, she's gorgeous and she makes brilliant photographs.
So let's take a look at this. That's Paul Williams' arm.
Has he been
as
cropped
much as
out
we
to
get
that
to
one,
him.
hasn't he?
Yeah.
Poor chap, goodness. Yes,
and then look at him there. He's like the hand that emerges.
Well, he's going to have to start donning some Jenny Packham dresses to catch up, isn't he? Bless him.
The poor fellow. Now, Jenny, this isn't new, is it? I suppose it is reminiscent of the Charles and Diana days, which I know that you will have remembered so well and covered, no doubt.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Where we all remember Charles saying, it really would be best if he had 2 wives on tour, and then the 2 wives could walk down either side of the street and he could just orchestrate the whole, choreograph the whole thing. But it actually reminds me of when I was sitting with Diana once and talking to her in the palace. And she told me, she said, sometimes I feel very sorry for Prince Philip because look at that tour, that tour of South Africa they've just been on. Well, you wouldn't know that the Duke was there at all. It was all about the Queen. So she knows exactly what William might be feeling.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Thank you to both of you, Kate and to Jenny. A load of old fluff or really interesting? You can make your own mind up on the podcast. Thank you to both of you. Now, in just a moment, is social media affecting your child's mental health? We have tips for parents and grandparents to help keep your teens safe online. And we have a look at the extraordinary scenes in Sir David Attenborough's new TV series.
I see trees of green, red